Hello students, in this module we will be doing the 10th story, that is All Summer in a Day by Ray Douglas Bradbury. Now first of all we will do a little bit about Ray Douglas Bradbury. Here we will say he was born on August 22, 1980, and he was, you can say, Bradbury enjoyed a relatively idyllic childhood in Waukegan. The spelling of the place where he had been from was Waukegan, Waukegan. And besides that, you can say his family moved to Los Angeles, California in somewhere around 1934. So as a teenager also, he always participated in school dramas, clubs, and occasionally even he befriended some of the Hollywood celebrities. Besides that, after graduation from high school in 1938, Bradbury couldn't afford to go to the college, so he went to the local library instead. And besides that, that's all that you should be remembering about the author. About the story we will be doing in the brief afterwards, when we'll do the reading and the explanation. First we see over here the theme of the story. So in this story, that is All Summer in a Day, the writer wants to convey that the appearance of the sun for the children living on Venus is very, very significant. They are pale and they are colorless. They are passive both physically as well as emotionally, and therefore the lack of light of the sun has dried their compassion and consideration for others. They do not have any humanity until they spend some time in the light of the sun. Therefore the sun is quite life-giving for the landscape as well as for the inhabitants of Venus also. This story is set up as, you can say, fantasy sci-fi. It is based on people living, or people from Earth itself had gone and settled in a particular planet called Venus. So there, while they are residing there, it is assumed that there is no particular sun coming out and always there is rains, and that is how people survive in that particular climate. That is one of the main particular highlight of the story, and that is also through this story the writer wants to show how sun, the life-giving element of our world, is life-giving over there also, and that brings the warmth in the relationship in the human beings and everywhere around. It brings life, prosperity, happiness. The writer illustrates this theme by depicting the life of a group of school children in the planet that is on Venus, and the children are 9-year-old and are living in with their families. So it is given in the story that the sun came only after 7 years. So these children are 9 years old. That means probably the last time when the sun came out they were just 2 years old, and that is why they hardly have any particular idea of how it looked when the rain stopped and the sun came, and that too they had the sun coming only for an hour or two. So that is why the story is All Summer in a Day. That means they have the sun coming out only for an hour or two, and that is all the summer they have within the entire year. So that is the main theme of the story, also main you can say plot of the story as well. When you talk about the story, we see a group of school children live on the Venus with their families, and they are 9-year-old and 7 years. There it is usually a continuous rain, so scientists have predicted that the sun will come out for a brief period of time on a particular day. But over here in this lot of all the students, there is one student who is Margaret, and Margaret was someone who had come from Earth to Venus, so she was not used to such kind of climate, and that is why she was very gloomy. She remembered all her memories of sun on Earth, and that is why now she was longing for sun to come. When she was told that the sun will be coming on a particular day, she kept on telling many stories to the other classmates about the sun, and that was the only thing she used to talk about. And here, when the sun was about to come, she was very, very happy, very eager to see it, but due to some notorious children who locked her inside the locker on that particular day, she was not able to see the sun. And then the other children realized what mistake they had done when they had themselves witnessed the sun and the warmth and the happiness the sun brought. And that is how they realized the warmth, happiness, the sun of the sun that Margaret used to tell them, and they used to make fun of her. And now they realize that the sun would be coming almost after 7 years. So once missed, it was a miss for a long period of time. So that is how we can say that this particular character Margaret is one who is shown as the person the only person in the story who knows what it means to be in the sun. Even when we talk about the title of the story, it is a very apt title because the story depicts the life of all the children, those who are in the school and others also, all of them. And you can say that they have never seen the sun, and it has been raining for past 7 years. So scientists, when they tell that it is going to be a sunny day for a brief period of time, so all these children, they usually want to see that and they want to enjoy it, and they exult and say it's better than the sun lamps, isn't it? And as they run around the jungles of the Venus, they run and turn their faces up to the sky, and then they feel the sun on their cheeks like a warm iron. And that is how they take off their jackets and let the sun burn their arms. They enjoy lying in the sun, and suddenly the weather changes and again the rain starts to pour down. And that is how they realize how wonderful the sun is. For them it was all summer in a day, and that was all the enjoyment the sun had brought for them, although for a brief moment of time. Yet it was basically very, very interesting to see the sun for the very first time, and then longing and waiting for it for the next 7 years. So let's begin the reading. Here it is. The people are talking about the sun that would be coming on that day, and scientists have said that, so everybody is preparing for it. So it starts with a question: ready, ready, now, soon. Do the scientists really know? Well, it happened today. Will it happen today? Will it? Look, see for yourself. The children pressed to each other like so many roses, so many weeds, intermixed, peering out for a look at the hidden sun. So each and every child is quite excited. They know that the sun would be coming out, and they are all peeping out through the windows, waiting eagerly for the sun to come. But it was raining. It rained. It had been raining for 7 years, thousands upon thousands of days compounded, and filled from one end to the other with rain, with the drum and gush of water, with the sweet crystal fall of showers and concussions of storms so heavy they were tidal waves come over the island. 1,000 forests had been crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. So here it is shown the entire scenario over there. It is raining heavily, and heavily rains along with the thunderstorms, everything in loud voice or loud noise of the thunderstorms and all that. It seems like tidal waves comes after those rains, and many 1,000 times it is that the forest over there, the overgrowth of the grass, it is crushed under that rain, and then once again it regrows. So you can say it is all humid, and like rainforests, it is all there. And this was the way life was forever on the planet Venus. And this was the schoolroom of the children of the rocket men and women who had come to a raining world to set up civilization and live out their lives. So who are these rocket men and women? Those people from Earth, those who had come to Venus, and for some or the other reason they have settled over there, maybe because of their explorations or various, they are the scientists. So their children are living their lives here, and they have seen only the rains. They live in the tunnels and their places which are, the civilization is almost like you can say indoors. There is nothing to go outside. It's stopping. Yes. Margaret stood apart from them, from these children who could ever remember a time when there wasn't rain. So here she is the only one among all those children who's standing apart, and these children, none of them remembers what it was like when the last time the rain stopped and the sun came out, because at that time they probably were too small to remember that. They were just would have been 2 years old, because now they are basically all 9 years old. And here it rained for 7 years, and after 7 years the rain is stopping and the sun would be coming out. They were all 9 years old, and if there had been a day 7 years ago when the sun came out for an hour and showed its face to the stunned world, they could not recall because they were too young to remember anything that happened when they were 2 years old. Sometimes at night she heard them stir in remembrance, and she knew they were dreaming and remembering gold or a yellow crayon or a coin large enough to buy the world with. She knew they thought they remembered a warmness like a blushing in the face, in the body, in the arms and legs and trembling hands. But then they always awoke to the tatting drum, the endless shaking down for clear bead necklaces upon the roof. The walk, the garden, the forest, and their dreams were gone. All day yesterday they had read in class about the sun, about how like a lemon it was and how hot, and they had written small stories or essays or poems about it. I think the sun is a flower that blooms for just 1 hour. So these are basically all the various expressions you can say of all the children. They do not remember anything, and just by what their parents say, what they have heard, they make certain imaginations and they remember those things in their dreams also. Like they call sun as something remembering as a gold or a yellow crayon or a large coin which through which they can buy the entire world. But over here they do not remember anything about it, not the warmness or the blush in the face or in the body and arms and legs. But as soon as they wake up, they can only hear and see and witness the rains which is tapping on their roofs, like necklace falling on it on the roof, and all that noise of the raindrops has been mentioned over here. It is just said that they can only witness those things, they can only remember and understand those things. They hardly can remember, understand the garden, the forest and things to roam around and to explore. About how like a lemon they have been taught in the class about the sun, and it was taught that it was like a lemon they thought, or they had their own essays, stories and poems written about it. One of them wrote that it is like a flower that blooms around summer, and that is just for an hour. That was Margaret's poem, read in a quiet voice in the still classroom while the rain was falling outside. "Oh, you didn't write that," protested one of the boys. "I did," said Margaret. "I did." "William," said the teacher. "But that was yesterday." Now the rain was slackening and the children were crushed in the great thick windows. "Where's teacher? She'll be back. She'd better hurry. We'll miss it." They turned on themselves like a feverish wheel, all tumbling spokes. Margaret stood alone. She was a very frail girl who looked as if she had been lost in the rain for years, and the rain had washed out the blue from her eyes and the red from her mouth and the yellow from her hair. So here we can see that they are talking about the last day, previous day. Children were making fun of what Margaret has written about the sun and the poem she was talking about the sun. And so William, one of her classmates, he made a fun of her, but the teacher scolded her, stopped her. But today it was totally a different day. The rain was weakening, and that meant the storm will stop, the rain will stop, and maybe the sun would show. So that is why all the children are near the window. They are waiting, where is the teacher? Otherwise they will not be able to see the sun by going outside. They'll miss it. So they are eagerly waiting for the sun as well as for the teacher. And on the other hand, we can say Margaret was the one who wanted to see the sun most enthusiastically, but she was standing alone. She was not for one of those group, and she could never intermingle in that group. And so she was waiting for the sun to come, but she still was not ready to get into the bunch of those children of her class, because she felt that she was really different, and she was standing all alone, as if it is given by the author, as if she was lost in the rain somewhere. It had taken the blue of her eyes, that means all the excitement, all the happiness of her eyes, and the red of her mouth, the happy cheerfulness, and the blush, and the yellow from her hair. Everything has become, seems like, fading away for her. So she was an old photograph dusted from an album, whitened away, and if she spoke at all, her voice would be a ghost. Now she stood separate, staring at the sun, at the rain, and the loud, wet world beyond the huge glass. So this girl was standing over there, eagerly waiting for the sun to come, and it seemed as if she is basically an old photograph of herself, totally washed away. That means all happiness, all color, blush, and all the colors, vibrance from her personality has been washed away, has been gone, and she is just whitened away. Means she is not, she doesn't seem to be happy at all. She is gloomy, she is totally in her own world. And even if she spoke, she hardly spoke anything to the children there, because they could not understand what she was trying to tell them, explain them about the sun and the things on the earth. And that is why she did not speak to them. And even if she did spoke, it was like a ghost. That means very weak voice, hardly visible, audible, and nobody would be able to understand and recognize what she is trying to say, or make out what she wants to say. So she stood separate and staring at the rain, and she was also looking beyond the huge glass, because this was the moment she was waiting for. "What are you looking at?" said William. Margaret said nothing. "Speak when you are spoken to." And this William, once again he comes to her, he wants to irritate her, and he asks her, "What are you trying to look over there?" Because she was the one telling about the sun all the time, so they felt quite irritated by her. And this is the time she says, "Why are you not talking to me? You should be speaking to me when you are spoken to." That means he was not able to hear what Margaret said. Margaret said it very slowly, in a very low voice. He gave her a shove, but she did not move. Rather, she let herself be moved only by him and nothing else. They edged away from her. They would not look at her. She felt them go away, and this was because she would play no games with them in the echoing tunnels of the underground cities. So that is why they were not rather happy to see her, and none of her classmates wanted to be with her. They just edged her and went away, because the only reason was she was not interested in playing with them, she was not interested in talking to them, because she felt that she belonged totally from a different world and she could not mix up in their world. If they tagged her and ran, she stood, blinking after them, and did not follow. When the class sang songs about happiness and life and games, her lips barely moved. Only when they sang about the sun and the summer did her lips move as she watched the drenched windows. So here it is given that they used to play with her and they used to tag her, but she never ran after them, never played with the game. She just kept standing there, blinking, looking at them, but not following them. Even when the class sang songs, she barely sang with them. But only time when she used to sing songs are basically the time when the class used to sing about the sun and the summers, because that is what she was waiting for, she longed for. And then, of course, the biggest crime of all was that she had come here only 5 years ago from Earth, and she remembered the sun and the way the sun was and the sky was when she was 4 in Ohio. So she was not a particular Rocket Man women, you can say, community member. She was one, or you can say she belonged to that only recently, because she had just come 5 years ago. When she was 4 years old, she was on Earth in Ohio City, and therefore she remembered all the things about the sun and the sky and the summers. And that is why she was very different in everything from these children who had never witnessed sun. And they had been on Venus all their lives, and they had been only 2 years old when last the sun came out, and had long since forgotten the color and heat of it and the way it really was. But Margaret remembered. "It's like a penny," she said once, eyes closed. "No, it's not," the children cried. "It's like a fire," she said, "in the stove." "You're lying. You don't remember," cried the children. But she remembered and stood quietly apart from all of them and watched the patterning windows. So here we see that she was there standing over there, and she used to usually remember everything about the sun. So whenever she told them, they were not ready to listen to her. They felt that whatever they were taught in the books, or whatever their imagination was about the sun, that was the truth. But they did not believe her when she said that it was like a penny and it is like fire in the stove and all those things. They felt that she was lying and just making up stories and making you can say making her own imaginations stories and telling them, because they did not want to believe whatever she wanted to tell them about the sun. And this was the difference because of which she was not able to intermingle or mix up with the children of her class. So here we have done the first 3 pages. It's a long chapter. We will do the remaining explanation of the chapter in the next module. So here we will end on page 110. With this, we come to the end of the module. Thank you.